how does Sonicwall look to protect and to control and to ensure that you are safe and you are secure? Just to set the scene a little bit further, we're in a very sticky position as an industry, and the reason for that is if we look at our market value, cybersecurity market value, in 2021, 160 billion, airing towards the 250 billion mark by 2025. If you look at the opposite side of the scales, cyber criminals estimated by 2025 to be a $10 trillion business. $10 trillion is huge. That's the third largest economy behind China and the United States. So the cyber criminal enterprise is vast. It's a massive, massive network, and the sort of drive and the requirement. Just slipped the word on my. There was a word in my head I was about to use, but it's gone. But the it's very much driven by greed and earnings. So the cyber criminals are after one thing: they want money, 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 money. Whereas our response to that is very much reactive. It's sometimes proactive, but we're sort of trying to plug the holes in a dam when they pop up, and doing so with sticky tape versus the tooling that we actually required. And normally it's an individual effort when it comes to organizations trying to stop cyber criminals. So, they're very highly organized, very focused. You can buy cybercrime as a service these days. So they have service level agreements on their cybersecurity, on their delivery options. So as if I want to go and attack an organization, I can go and hire a cyber criminal, and they will guarantee me that they will have access or compromise within a certain period of time. Obviously, the quicker you want that done, or the more widespread, the cost will increase. But it's an organized crime effort now and a huge market, and it's not going to stop. And we are facing the problem of about 3.5 million global cybersecurity jobs open in the cybersecurity industry as a whole. So we don't have the staff, we don't have the skill set as an industry as a whole. And again, that then puts us on the back foot and into a very much reactive approach to cybersecurity. So with this reactive approach, what we tend to see is, and then with the shift, so a reactive approach and a shift in the threat landscape, we're seeing an explosion of access points or points of what's the word I'm looking for again? Sorry, it's been a long week, but so we're seeing a lot of organizations move their infrastructure to the cloud. We're also seeing a lot of organizations post-COVID moving their workforce into a home working environment, whether that's on a tablet, a mobile phone, or a laptop. Gone are the days of the sort of crunchy exterior of network security, whereby you can have your users in an office and protected. We're working from home. I'm sat at home. The rest of you guys are probably at home. It's Friday. So, we have this huge risk, this huge explosion of access points, points of compromise. People sat at home, not necessarily having the right security. There's only so much a BT router will secure. Then you have your antivirus on the endpoint. So this is one of the big points of risk that we're seeing. And then with that comes the cost as well. Suddenly, again, during COVID, and I'm not trying to bring it past here, but everyone had to have a laptop. Suddenly organizations were scrabbling around for money to find laptops. Then the production shortage as China shut down, which then, with all of that in mind, increased the cost of security, traditional security, when the constraints are the same. And I mentioned this before: 3.5 million open headcount for the cybersecurity industry globally at the moment, and the budgets remain the same. The budgets very rarely move. So your security spend will be your biggest constraint. And as we saw, you're facing a $10 billion industry. You're facing all these different attacks. And just to highlight again, the report from 2023, a complete shift. The attackers are moving, and they're able to move very quickly because there's so much money involved that the attack points are changing. One of the biggest questions we get asked by customers is, how do I go about protecting my business integrity whilst mitigating that risk? And this is a huge problem for many organizations. It's not just one organization, but every organization has the same problem. Mobile workforce, again, everything is connected everywhere. Information is open, accessible, you're migrating to the cloud. How do we secure not just the devices, not just the individuals and the data, but also the transacting to and from the cloud, the transacting from a home remote worker back into the corporate environment? These are big concerns still. Even though we are slowly moving back to an office-based environment, these are still big concerns. Now, we work a lot with some large enterprise customers, and this is and the reason for the last 3 slides. It is a common question asked, particularly by these customers here, of ours, of how do we actually do that? What can Sonicwall bring to the table to help me secure my people, my processes, and access to my data and my data? So we have quite a few reference customers here who will be more than happy to have a conversation with you about how they went about doing it, such as Mountain Warehouse, Cardiff University, Dundee, Harrow Schools. So it doesn't matter who the customer is, they have chosen Sonicwall for a reason. Now, we realize that you're not going to just fix everything with one product. You're not going to just drop an antivirus solution onto an endpoint and fantastic, we're protected. If you think about your architecture, your environment as it stands today, there are many facets to that. And again, not to repeat the same thing, but whether it's remote workers transacting to and from the corporate HQ or to the cloud, and then within those environments as well. So what Sonicwall has done is created a boundless cybersecurity model. Now, there are these 8 pillars to boundless security. We've thought about this long and hard, and we realized the need to protect your employees anywhere and everywhere. So the security needs to move with the employee. Where are they moving? Have they got a corporate laptop and suddenly are they working in Starbucks? It doesn't take 2 minutes for someone to man the middle attack a Wi-Fi router in Starbucks. Not to pick on Starbucks, there are other coffee shops around, but we tend to like to work in a mobile way, moving around, connecting to security points. We don't know how they are secured, so let's think about how we can start securing the users when they move. Know the unknown, so identify the unknown attacks. And again, that goes back to the previous discussion about our real-time deep memory inspection. So using a intelligence base that is ours to look at what's happening to the network traffic, to the data, to the payloads, analyzing those items and looking for anything malicious, and then putting a stop and block. And if we do this in less than 2 seconds, it's very quick. You won't notice any disruption to the traffic flows or to the email or to files being downloaded. But the fact is, that you can remain confident that it's secure. And we put if it's something we don't quite know, we'll put a automatic block on that file until we can understand what it is. And I'll talk through that in a minute when we hit our real-time deep memory inspection slide. Seamless coverage. So again, it's not just about protecting the endpoint or the phone, or it's about how do we protect the entirety of your organization through access points, through wireless within the office, through your mobile devices, your laptops, through the data, through the servers, and then providing a unified view as well. So it's all very well having all these different technologies, but what you don't want and need is multiple viewpoints. So the ability to use a single pane of glass to understand what's happening within your organization to help you focus in on risk, prioritize risk. And with that, looking to reduce your total cost of ownership, so disruptive economics. Again, the old adage was buy from multiple vendors, so you have this different and varying levels of protection. But what we're seeing now is if you take an enterprise organization, they have about 75 pieces of security technology in an enterprise environment. That's a huge amount of technology to manage. Typically with that, you'll have a number of monitor displays or management access to these 75 different pieces of technology. With that, you have to have all the different leveling skill sets that are required to manage those technologies. So it's a very costly and expensive approach. People, process, multiple consoles. Let's look at how we can help you save money by reducing that footprint and the need for trained staff. We can even do that through our partnerships. We can look at managed service offerings as well. And then all of this comes with the reduction of human intervention as well. So again, using a single stack of technology, automating all the processes and ensuring that, if something does happen, you don't have to rely on a person to hit stop. It can be done automatically and quickly, and then you can get alerted. And the key is as well, as we've seen with the difference between the 2021, 2022 and 2023 threat security report, the adversaries are changing their attacks, their stance, the way they attack, and for what tools they're using. So we need to be continuously adaptive to the environment and to the attacks, and with that, ensure that your security posture is perfect, and we can stop malicious attacks from happening. And then deployment options. We're all moving to the cloud, so let's look at how we can secure a cloud. We will have mobile workforces. Let's look at those mobile workforces, and then the transacting data points between. So just to cover off a bit more about the bounded security, it doesn't matter if we start at the very bottom. Again, if we look at the adversaries, whether we're seeing brand new zero-day variants of malware, whether there's malicious code, phishing attacks, encrypted threats, we saw a decrease in that. The use of non-standard reports, ransomware, memory threats, IoT, the whole range, including side channel, which is quite an interesting attack method that adversaries are using. It doesn't matter to us what the adversary is trying to do and how they're trying to do it. We have a range of technologies that will protect the exposure points of your organization, whether we're looking at the delivery of malware via email or remote workers, cloud access, security network endpoints, IoT and Wi-Fi. Our Sonicwall boundless security portfolio has a product that can protect each one of these exposure points, including remote workers, and then help control the flow of these malicious codes and malicious activities and stop and block them from entering your organization. There's a whole range of things that we do, a whole range of technologies and products. And again, we can go into these into more detail another time, but we have the ability to operate within the cloud, run software as a service, whether we're talking about network transformation, so looking at firewalls, switches. We have the intelligence. We can help build SOCs or use MSSP providers through partnerships, their SOCs, and then also protect the endpoint device. There's a whole range of different technologies. This is quite an interesting slide. I'd like to show this one because it's always nice to see a bit of hardware, but our bread and butter is the firewall, and we have a whole range of different firewalls depending on the size of your organization. So if we start in the left-hand column, we can either virtualize it at the very bottom, so we can offer firewalls that will sit in the cloud. Now, a lot of people are migrating to the cloud, and one thing we're seeing a common trend is they're relying on the fact that the cloud service provider's firewall will do what it should do and stop and block. But what we do find in reality is, although these cloud providers are superb at selling cloud services, they're not necessarily the best at securing. So we've taken our firewall platform and virtualized it. We've been doing firewalls for 30 years. It's our bread and butter. It's a very, very good firewall, so it can be virtualized. And then we start stepping up into the different levels of firewall, whether we're looking at a TZ, which is sort of an entry model, through the NSA range up to the NSSP for the large sort of distributed enterprises. We also offer, if I then step down the middle column from top to bottom, we have our secure mobile access range, which allows us to secure access to network and cloud infrastructure. We have switches, we have email security, and then our capture security appliance for on-premise file testing and malware prevention. So these are, again, all different capabilities to ensure that all of the transacting points within your environment, whether we're again talking endpoint, data in motion, data in use, people connecting, we have a functionality to ensure that those areas are protected. All of these have the real-time deep memory inspection capability as well. And then on the far right-hand column, we have sonic wave access points, so we can start securing Wi-Fi, ensuring that your Wi-Fi within your environments is secure. And then we have the management capability to allow to manage all the firewalls and all the cloud access points. The capture client is an endpoint package that will sit on the endpoint Windows, Mac, and then ensure that not only is the device safe, but also has functions such as rollback capability as well. So let's say worst case piece of ransomware was to land, the rollback functionality will allow you to take that back to a usable state very quickly and very efficiently as well. We have our SASE approach to Cloud Edge as well as our cloud app security. So there's a whole range of products that Sonicwall has within its portfolio to ensure that you as a user remain safe and secure. Your users are safe and secure, and we can do this again through the single pane of glass, which does reduce the need to have multiple skilled and trained personnel managing all this information and infrastructure. And certainly, again, we have organizations that can manage this on your behalf. Now, just to cover off the real-time deep memory inspection, it's quite an interesting piece of technology that we have, and it allows us to very quickly identify known and unknown threats. So what will happen is malware artifacts get uploaded to the Capture Labs environment. Within Capture Labs, there's a whole bunch of computational power that performs deep learning activity. Deep learning is a subset of artificial intelligence. It's sort of the next best thing further on from machine learning. With machine learning, you have to have a human-derived input. So a human would say, let's take if you're a human, you're trying to describe what a dog looks like. For example, you will say this dog has 2 eyes, a nose. There's a triangular shape between the eyes and the nose, and they have 2 ears. And what we find with the machine learning aspects, the older technology, is it's very easy to trick a device into not firing on a machine learning algorithm. For example, if you were to put a top hat on your dog, or maybe move the ears a little bit, the artificial intelligence won't necessarily work out that it's a dog, because all you've done is describe 2 eyes and a nose. Whereas deep learning is a whole different subset, and it takes a long time to train the intelligence for deep learning. But the way the training is done and completed, you train with positive and negative subsets of information. So the deep learning has the ability to self-learn that something is good versus something is bad. And that allows it to make a very accurate decision by looking at only a percentage of the file and do it very quickly. So the malware artifact is uploaded, whether, again, if you look at the very bottom layer, whether it's from email, cloud, networks, endpoints, etc., the artifact is uploaded. If it's a known, so if it's something we've seen before, if we have a signature for it, we can very quickly say, yeah, this is a known, let's block that. And we can put a stop and block on that particular transaction. If it's an unknown, and again, you saw the numbers of unknown, we have huge amounts of unknown threats coming through the system. We have then the ability to pop those artifacts into our Capture ATP sandbox engine, and also into our real-time deep memory inspection engine. Now, within these, there's multiple facets within each of these engines, but it allows us to expose, run, test that piece of malware to see whether it is malicious or not. So if it's a sandbox environment, maybe it looks like it's for Windows machines, we'll drop it into the Windows environment and see if it opens up, extracts, whether it performs malicious activities. A lot of malware, a lot of malicious code is now designed to evade sandbox testing. It knows that it's been put in a sandbox, so it will either automatically delete or remain dormant. So we can then use the deep memory inspection to actually look at the file itself. And actually, unlike a traditional coder, if somebody's producing code for an organization, they're very particular about how that code looks. It goes through code iterations, it goes through multiple Q&A inspections, and the code is clean, it's annotated, it looks good. The attackers are not that smart, so basically they bash together some code. They might reuse some old code, add some new code to the malicious payload, and also there's a very specific type of encryptor malicious attackers use within their payload as well. So we can look for that sort of information, and we typically look at the entropy of a file. So how good is that file? How clean is that file? The fact is, if it has any malicious intent, we will put a stop and block to it. If we don't quite know, if it is, say, trying to evade the sandbox, we will put this block until verdict hold on that traffic as well. So we're not just going to let it in. We find a lot of our competitors, if they're not quite sure, they'll let it in on the hope that it's not malicious. We will stop and hold that file until we can determine whether it's bad or good, and then we'll allow it to be delivered. Right. So you don't need to take our word, just our word, on how good the real-time deep memory inspection is. We do rigorous third-party testing. So we work with ICSA labs, and they will spend time testing. They do this for a lot of vendors as well, but we are the only vendor to have 100% detection, 100% threat detection. So typically what these guys do is they'll do several days worth of testing. They will throw different tests at the environment. So new samples, little known samples, innocuous applications. They will start throwing a lot of stuff at our real-time deep memory inspection engine in the hope to try and find a hole or a flaw. And we've been doing this for, they do this every quarter. We've had 11 consecutive quarters now where we've hit 100% threat detection. We've only had one false positive out of those 11 consecutive quarters. So it's a very, very robust system. All these reports are accessible as well, so you can have a look at those yourselves. So you don't have to take our word for it. But we like to, try and test ourselves. We can't just go around saying we're the best. So we have this third party proving it. But yes, they throw a lot of unknown malware testing, and also the key is there's false positives as well. False positives used to plague the industry. Nowadays, not so much, because the intelligence is really gathering pace, and we're able to properly understand whether something is a true positive versus a false positive. The final slide I'll touch on here, as we come up to sort of the end of the time before we open up to Q&A. Just to recap on our boundless security model, the Sonicwall's aim is to ensure that as an organization, wherever your people work, wherever they have applications, doesn't matter what kind of a threat is attacking your industry, your sector, your vertical, across any endpoint, whether that's an IoT endpoint, a sensor, device, PC, wearables, across any infrastructure, on-premise, cloud, SaaS, LSaaS, containers, virtualization, and whether your employees are connecting to any network, whether that's a 5G or segmented network. It doesn't matter your business and vertical. We are here to help secure your infrastructure, bridging the cybersecurity gap, reducing the need for massive expenditure on multiple vendor product sets, keeping the skills in-house. And again, if you don't have that capability in-house, certainly we can work with programs and help look at MSSP offerings and help you run these setups, configure them for you, help you get your infrastructure up to a safe and sound point. So I want to thank you all for your time today. I will just stop sharing quickly just to see if there's any questions. Does anybody have any questions or anything that I can help answer?
Thanks, Matt. We've not had any questions in the Q&A so far, but we'll just wait a couple of minutes. If anyone does want to submit a question, just go to the Q&A up at the top of your screen and type it in there. doesn't look like any questions coming in at the moment, but if anyone does think of any questions after we've finished today, please feel free to get in touch with us at probrand.co.uk or with Matt, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Thank you very much, Matt, and thank you very much, everyone, for giving us part of your Friday afternoon. We hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Lindsay. Thanks all. Have a good day. Have a good weekend.